What's up, everyone? You are watching Sight Sounds Flavors live here on YouTube. I am here at the Paddock Shops in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about Darrell Brooks Jr. We're going to talk about Alex Murdaugh. We're going to talk about pizza. I'm going to show you the surroundings, and we're going to be doing this every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Granted, it is 7:40 now, so I'm a little bit late to the party, but there you can see the beautiful Paddock Shops. And they've got this all lit up. It looks real nice. Of course, it's Thanksgiving coming up here shortly. And they got it done up for Christmas already. Got the snowman. And we've got the lights. So, guys, feel free to ask me any questions. Feel free to drop any comments. We're going to be talking about everything. So let's start out with the trial, because a lot of people often say, what's the fascination with the Waukesha trial? Well, the fascination, I think, is the fact that Darrell Brooks Jr. was able to represent himself, even though he was completely unqualified for the task. He did not prepare adequately. He had two competent attorneys there. They were public defenders. They were on their game. If you notice something about the trial, Darrell never actually wrote any questions. The only thing that he actually wrote was that sovereign citizen garbage that a lot of people think came as a result of somebody that due dawn. But all the questions, all the research was done by the two prior attorneys, and he was reading those questions. All of his objections were off the grid. A lot of grounds, a lot of reason for the abstain. There was a lot of just, a lot of intimidation tactics that were used against the judge, used against the witnesses. He tried to use them against prosecution team and failed miserably. The one person that Darrell Brooks Jr. could never scare was Sue Opper. And that's why he hated Sue. He couldn't stand Sue. And Sue knew how to play with him with defendant. Sue knew how to play with him by whispering. I think a lot of times they weren't saying really much of anything, but they were trying to psych off Darrell. And why did they need to do that if they were going to win the case anyways? Maybe call a little bit of payback. Prosecution team had to sit there and watch him just attack these poor witnesses. And in fact, prosecution team tried to do a motion to reconsider so as to avoid the witnesses having to make appearances on camera. And Darrell fought that and said, hey, this is a public trial. Might as well show these witnesses. He didn't care about the fact that a lot of them were survivors. A lot of them saw their loved ones die because of his action. He could have done, that would have been an opportunity for him to have shown a little bit of empathy, a little bit of a soul to the jury by saying, you know what, let's spare the victims having to appear on national television, on the internet. We can blur their faces out. But no, he insisted it was a public trial. Let's keep it public. It's not like they've been through hell and back. Let's put them through some more hell. And then on top of that, he would mumble things under his breath. A lot of people believe that the real reason that Darrell insisted upon having the face mask, even though everybody was always 6 feet apart from him, was the fact that it allowed him to mumble under his breath. And a lot of the times he would say, well, I guess you can hear everything, right? Well, the reality of the matter is that he had mics all over him. So when he was mumbling obscenities or he was mumbling derogatory things, the judge could hear him, prosecution team could hear him, and the witnesses could hear him. Also, on top of that, he badgered a lot of these witnesses. And prosecution team could have objected, a lot of times did object, but sometimes even the judge would overrule their objections because the judge wanted it to look like it was a fair trial, and it was a fair trial. It was so much a fair trial that Darrell was able to overstep so much that I feel that the victims had to suffer so that it would be totally apparent that he had a fair trial. Now, one thing about him, though, is that he ruined any chances of a new trial. But we look at Alex Murdaugh. Now, Alex Murdaugh made a lot of mistakes. Here's a lawyer, an actual lawyer, a personal injury lawyer that made a ton of money for a lot of people, only they never saw it because he spent it. But he made the mistake of testifying. He shouldn't have testified because he didn't know. He thought he knew what prosecution had. but he never expected them to find the Snapchat video. And it's not that they hid it. It's one of those things that just appeared during the trial and they let the other side see it. But he had this whole story concocted. He was a person that was able to make himself cry. That was part of his shtick when he was, leading these cases. He was able to get to the jury. He was able to manipulate emotions. He was like one of these like method actors that could make himself cry like that. But the reality of the matter is that when he put the whole story together, his hysterical crying in the back of the police car, all of that, when the Snapchat came out, it made him out to be a liar. So now, if he does get a retrial, what's he going to do? Well, he's going to learn from the mistakes of the first trial. The jury in the second trial is not going to see what the jury in the first trial saw. He's probably not going to testify. He's going to cater his defense around the Snapchat evidence, and he's going to probably try to make the case that, yes, he was able to get from his home to the crime scene and back before the crime took place, all in the course of a couple of minutes, which sounds absolutely unbelievable, especially if you've heard the other version. But the new trial jury is not going to hear the other version because they're not going to share it. And they're not going to be able to go back to the original trial because I think that would be grounds for another new trial. So the reality of the matter is that while Alex Murdaugh is guilty as sin, as is O.J. Simpson, there's a chance he may get off. Now, he also struck a plea deal on all the financial crimes that we thought he was going to do hundreds of years for, a mere 27 years for all of the financial crimes, all of them. And so now for the new trial, they're probably not going to talk about the financial crimes because he's already pled and that's done. With the original trial, I think they spent as much time talking about his financial crimes as they did the double homicide. So, it's crazy. And imagine what the prosecutor in that original case feels like. Imagine what the judge in that original case feels like. Now the judge has to recuse himself because he's likely to be called as a witness in the retrial. And that original prosecutor, he probably has a full boatload of cases, so he can't even do the new case even if he wanted to. Plus, it may not be in the same part of the state where this first trial was. It may be in a different part of the state. So he may not be able to do it anyways. But imagine all of his hard work, all of his team's hard work. Imagine all the witnesses. Imagine all the preparations, the memos, the legal research, the trial and error, the bouncing back from the defense's tricks. And all of that work will mean nothing if he gets a retrial. It will mean absolutely nothing. And this is a prosecutor that was aggressive. I mean, he was maybe even more aggressive than Sue Opper. I mean, this guy wanted Alex Murdaugh's blood. And this is a guy who was instrumental in his conviction. And now all of that hard work will mean absolutely nothing if Alex Murdaugh gets a retrial. And so that is very, very scary. And imagine all of these plaintiffs. I mean, all these people that got robbed. You had the guy who lost his mom because she slipped and fell on the Murdaugh property. I mean, they stole every last cent of his money. So it's just an interesting situation if, in fact, Alex Murdaugh gets a retrial. So everybody's looking at that trial in South Carolina. I don't know that he will get a retrial. But again, the judge's clerk contaminated the jury pool by telling the jurors not once or twice or 3 or 4 times, but like multiple times, that Alex Murdaugh was guilty, to watch out for his theatrics, that he was a skilled litigator, that the jury should look beyond that the guy killed his wife and his son, that how could he sit there and pretend like nothing happened? I mean, this clerk was, the jury, they can't watch TV, they can't read newspapers, they can't turn on the radio. That's why the whole big thing, the whole big stink with the Reddit post in the Darrell Brooks Jr. trial was such a big deal that he even thought he could ask for a mistrial because of the possibility of a juror being on Reddit. Now, forget Reddit, forget television, forget radio, forget the newspaper. You've got a court officer going in there a bunch of times telling the jurors, hey, this plaintiff's guilty. Don't let this plaintiff fool you. How could they not give him a retrial? You know what I mean? How could they not? So the reality of the matter is Alex Murdaugh, I mean, could pretty much bet his bottom dollar he's going to get a retrial. You know what I mean? So what's going to happen during the retrial, who the heck knows, but he's probably going to get a retrial. And that judge that was like saying, Mr. Murdaugh, you were once a wonderful lawyer, you practiced in front of me, what a waste. Now that judge is going to become a witness. Now Alex Murdaugh's lawyers are going to try to tear him to pieces. It's just a very, very interesting flip of the script. You know what I mean? For a guy that's guilty but who may in fact walk. I mean, who really honestly believes O.J. Simpson was innocent? Come on, guys. Come on. I mean, but the thing is, he was able to walk. Why? Because he had the best lawyers money could buy. What does Alex Murdaugh have? He's got the best lawyers money can buy. So, and, it's going to be interesting to see. So, we've talked about Alex Murdaugh. We talked about Darrell Brooks. Still haven't seen any questions. Got 11 people in here, 5 likes. Really, really appreciate it. You want to throw a super like in here, help the channel out. I appreciate that as well. Hope everybody's subscribed to Sight Sounds Flavors. But you know what? Sometimes they say it takes 7 or 8 times, 10 times, 12 times with a podcast, with any venture, to get some traction. So we're going to do this well into the new year, and hopefully we get some comments. Last Sight Sounds Flavors YouTube live chat I did on Saturday night out of the blue. It was like 11 o'clock, and we had some good activity. So let's talk about poor Rosalind Carter, former First Lady, passed away a couple of days ago. Jimmy Carter, former U.S. president in hospice care. Rosalind Carter, one of the just most really kind-hearted, genuine first ladies this country's ever had. Jimmy Carter, maybe not the most qualified president, maybe not the best president, but honest, amazing heart, works for Habitat for Humanity, or did up until recently. Just a really, really cool guy, a peanut farmer from Georgia. It just goes to show you anybody can be president of the United States. And again, you may not agree with his politics. Maybe he wasn't the most effective president, but amazing heart, amazing human being. Who knows? I mean, he had brain cancer, maybe still has it, wasn't supposed to be alive, and has been fighting it for 20 years, but losing the love of his life, former First Lady Rosalind Carter, very, very sad. With music, I do want to mourn the passing of Steve Riley from LA Guns. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that band or not. Amazing band from the 1980s. He also played drums for Wasp, another fantastic band fronted by Blackie Lawless, who was at one point in time a member of the New York Dolls, I believe. So he passed away. That was very, very sad. So I don't know what the future of Riley's LA Guns is going to be, but I did want to mention him here on this Sight, Sounds, and Flavors. Also, of course, Rosalind Carter. But with regards to Darrell Brooks Jr., I suspect we're going to be talking about this trial for a very long time. And a lot of people, believe it or not, insist that Dawn should be charged as an accessory after the fact. I don't know what you guys think. As always, I leave it to you in the comments to let me know. I think her calling the car in stolen is problematic because she lent the car to her son. She knew he had it. And when he called for an Uber, she especially knew what went down. But I think she was just trying to cover herself. But, again, if she'd been able to call him an Uber, that would have made her an accessory after the fact without a doubt. Her sighting of A Caged Bird Sings is about as outrageous as it gets. You're talking about Maya Angelou's poem that was written during the civil rights movement, and it was used by the mom of a person that ran down, dozens of people, killing 6, including men, women, and children, injuring nearly 80 and wreaking havoc on a community. Thank you so much, Tequila. I'm glad you love the live. I can't imagine that Maya Angelou could have picked a worse situation for her poem to be read. But in any event, it is what it is. And again, I've really knocked on Dr. Mary Edwards quite a bit, but talk about a shameless opportunity, basically an infomercial is what she did in a trial that, much like the O.J. Simpson trial, which we're still talking about 30 plus years later, people are going to be seeing Dr. Mary Edwards in that clip for the next 20, 30 years as well. The only bad thing is she's 80 plus years old, so I don't know how much she's going to get out of it, but this is a person that has a podcast, has books that are out, has a website. I mean, to me, again, I don't know what the protocol is, even as an attorney. I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know if it would have been appropriate for Judge Dora to have interrupted Dr. Mary Edwards, but, I really honestly think that she got an infomercial out of it. When Dawn was up there, and of course up there on Zoom, but when Dawn did Zoom, she was having a really hard time keeping it cool. She was crying, she was very emotional, and so was Darrell, and I believe that was legitimate. When the roommate was up there, Darrell was welling up a little bit too. But when Dr. Mary Edwards was up there, I mean, Darrell, honestly, I think was having a hard time paying attention, and I don't think Dr. Mary Edwards shed even the semblances of a tear. She didn't even dab her eyes. I mean, she was there to talk about her work in the church, her work with the books, her books with motivational speaking, talking about mental health when she never went to school for that. She went to a divinity school that's probably out of a P.O. box somewhere. And so we call her doctor to be respectful, more so because of her age than because of her academic credentials. But the reality of the matter is that that should never have happened. And it did. A lot of things during that trial happened that should never have happened, and they did. So again, I look forward to future Sight Sounds Flavors lives. I want to get on here every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, I really hope that you also head on over to Everything Else Channel. Just type in everythingelsechannel.com. It'll take you to the YouTube page. Please, please, please subscribe. I think we're like 30 subscribers short of 1,000. 1,000 is a big number for a channel because it allows us to monetize, it allows us to go live, it allows a whole bunch of features, and I will also be doing live chats over there as well. And I feel that everythingelsechannel.com, I can actually take more liberties than I can here because, again, guys, this is a tourism channel, a music channel, a food review channel that also has an unfiltered side, an unfiltered playlist, I should say, where we talk about this. But Everything Else channel, I could see delving so much more into the trials than on this channel. So please head on over to everythingelsechannel.com. That's all you got to type in, everythingelsechannel.com. Hit enter, go there, subscribe. And I really appreciate all of your support, guys. I appreciate all the comments, all the likes. It really, really keeps this channel going. So again, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have a wonderful evening. If I don't see you again, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. Grounds!